Hey there, it is Rachel, and in my most recent podcast episode, I talked about why using punishment with children with big emotions tends not to be very effective. Now in this video, I'm going to go a little bit more broad, and I'm going to talk about why punishment in general tends not to get us those long-lasting results that we are looking for. It's not even that I'm against punishment or telling you not to use it. I'm just saying it's not likely to get you the results that you want, and I want to explain why by giving you a couple of examples. So let's say your son and your daughter are sitting around and your daughter's reading a book, there's music in the background, and your son says to your daughter, "Can I turn to a different song?" And your daughter says, "No, I really like this song, don't change the channel," or "Don't change the music." Well, he gets really frustrated because he doesn't want his sister to tell him no. He grabs her book out of her hand and he says, "I hate you." Well, his behavior obviously is not okay, it's unacceptable. And for many people, the instinct then is to punish him. He did something wrong, therefore he needs to be punished. He needs to feel bad for what he did so that he'll do better the next time. That's not really how it works though. Let me give you another example to explain why. Let's say you have a child who's struggling with math. Maybe they're struggling to learn their multiplication tables. And they're struggling and you say, "Hey, look, you have to learn them. That's the boundary. You have to learn them." But they're still struggling even though you set the boundary. Your instinct at that point is probably not, "Let me punish them." Your instinct is probably, okay, if they're still struggling even though they know what the boundary is, chances are they need help. They need a strategy. So you'd probably sit down and you teach them a strategy for the 9s and a strategy for the 5s. You wouldn't expect them to get it overnight. You'd practice it with them over and over, and you'd probably have a little bit of patience with them, but you'd be focused on practicing those strategies because your boundary is firm. They need to learn those multiplication skills. Well, the same is true in that situation with your son and your daughter. It's absolutely not okay for him to yank that book from her or to tell her he hates her. That's not the behavior you may want in your home. But instead of your instinct being, "I need to punish him," or in addition to that being your instinct, what I want to encourage you to do is also teach him how. Teach him how to do something different. Chances are in that moment when he was frustrated and disappointed and maybe felt out of control because someone told him no, he was flooded with emotions and did not know how to respond maturely. Now, I would argue that most people, when they are frustrated or disappointed or feel out of control, do not know how to respond maturely. Children certainly don't, because the part of their brain that allows them to be mature when they're upset, it hasn't fully developed. And they don't have a lot of practice and life skills. So they need, instead of punishment, or again, in addition to punishment, they absolutely need to learn these skills. So just like you would teach your child their multiplication skills, you need to teach your child a step-by-step strategy for how to be more respectful when they are upset, which is not going to come naturally to them. And instead of expecting that it's going to happen overnight, you need to make some effort to teach this to them over and over and over, and have patience and recognize that the more consistent you are, the more likely they're going to be able to use it in the moment, even when they're flooded. So we tend to go to punishment because we want that quick fix. We say, well, if they feel bad enough, they'll do better the next time. Problem is, punishment doesn't teach them how to do better the next time. The other reason we tend to go to punishment is we say, well, if I don't punish them, I'm letting them get away with it. Well, I would argue that bringing up a strategy over and over is not letting them get away with it. Ignoring the behavior would be letting them get away with it. Bringing up a strategy, having that firm boundary, this behavior is not acceptable, but I'm going to teach you how to do it differently and I'm going to practice it with you, that's not letting them get away with it. In fact, a lot of kids would actually not really enjoy that, so maybe you'd see that as a punishment. But the goal is to teach them how to do better, not to figure out what makes them feel worse, but to teach them how to do better. That's what fosters long-lasting change, when they know how to do something different. It's also what fosters confidence. If they know how to do something, they're more likely to feel good about themselves. A lot of children, and this is really true for children with big emotions, when they don't know how to do what you ask, when they don't know how to be respectful, even when they're frustrated, they start to feel bad about themselves, and it just erodes their self-confidence. So long-lasting results where the behavior changes, where the confidence improves, is about teaching how, not just about making them feel worse. If you want to hear a little bit more about how this impacts especially children with big emotions, but really more about punishment in general, I encourage you to listen to my latest podcast episode. You can find that on my website, rachel-bailey.com/203. And I'll be back again soon with more tips for you. See you then.